I've always loved photography, but decent equipment is expensive. So, naturally, I turned to Craigslist hoping to find a good deal. After a few days of searching, I found what seemed like a steal. An old film camera, listed for just $50. The seller said it worked perfectly, just a little wear and tear. The ad had no pictures of the camera, which was odd, but I thought, what's the harm in asking? I messaged the seller, and he got back to me right away. The message was short and to the point. If you want it, come pick it up tonight. Cash only. It was already getting dark, and the address he gave me was a little outside of town, but I figured it's worth the trip. When I arrived, I found myself outside this old, run-down house, the kind you'd avoid if you saw it in the daylight, let alone at night. There were no lights on inside, and the yard was overgrown, like no one had lived there for a while. I started to feel uneasy, but I knocked on the door anyway. No answer. After a minute, I tried again, louder this time. Just as I was about to turn and leave, the door creaked open a crack. I barely caught a glimpse of the man inside, but he didn't step out. Instead, he shoved the camera into my hands without a word. It looked strange. Old, sure, but almost too old, like it had been used a lot more than a little wear and tear would suggest. The lens was scratched up, and the casing felt cold, almost like metal left out in freezing weather. I looked up to ask about it, but the door had already shut. I didn't hear it close. It just happened. Something about the whole thing felt wrong. But I had the camera, so I headed home, eager to try it out. When I got back, I inspected it more closely. The lens was dusty, and the button stuck a little. But then I saw something that made my heart skip. There was still film inside. Curiosity got the better of me, so I wound the film and took it to a nearby photo lab. When I went back to pick up the developed photos, the guy behind the counter looked off. His hands were shaking as he handed me the envelope of pictures, eyes wide like he'd seen something he shouldn't have. I rushed back to my car and tore it open. The photos inside weren't of landscapes or people. No, they were pictures of me, sitting in my car, walking up to my front door, sleeping in my own bed. The last one was from that very morning. I dropped the camera, heart pounding, realizing too late that the person who took those pictures wasn't just watching me. He was still watching me.